Hello, Laura. Welcome. Would you like to do a mic check? Hello, Zach.
Hi, Nancy. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Supervisor Ellenberg.
Hey Nancy, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How about yourself?
Just fine. Earlier than expected. I will just turn my camera off until close to 2.
Okay, and just as a heads up, Joe Mendoza will be your clerk today.
Great, thank you so much.
Sure. Good afternoon, Laura. Would you like to do a mic check?
I would. Can you hear me?
I sure can. Thank you.
Great,
Welcome,
thank you.
Walter.
Hi, can you hear me?
I sure can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Dr. Smith. Welcome.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
I sure can.
Thanks, Nancy.
You're welcome. Good afternoon, Leila. Would you like to do a mic check?
Sure. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
I sure can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Rob. Would you like to do a mic check?
Sure, thank you.
I hear you loud and clear. And your
Thanks.
video looks good.
Great, thanks.
Sure. Hello, Gary. Would you like to do a mic check?
Hi, this is Gary. Can you hear me?
I sure can. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy.
This is the Deputy Clerk, just a courtesy announcement that we are now live on the internet. Good afternoon, Miguel.
Hi, good afternoon.
We can hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Molly.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. And hi, Key.
Hello. Thank you.
Thank you. And Michelle, would you like to do a mic check? Good afternoon, Sylvia. Vice Chairperson Wasserman, hello.
Hello there, Jill.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you too, and Madam
And to you, Mr. President and
Thank you.
Vice Chair, depending on where we're sitting.
Thank you, Vice President.
All right.
Recording in
1:59,
progress.
We'll get this going at 2 o'clock. All right. Let's have a public safety and justice meeting. I am going to call to order this meeting of October 7th, 2021 at 2 o'clock. And let's turn to Jill, who I believe is clerking for us today to do a roll call.
Good afternoon, Vice Chairperson Wasserman.
Here.
Chairperson Ellenberg.
I'm here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's move right to public comment. That's the portion of the agenda which is reserved for people wishing to speak on items not on the agenda, but within the purview of this committee. Do we have any speakers today?
We do. We currently have 2 speakers on queue.
Okay, let's just give that another 30 seconds or so. If anybody is interested in speaking on public comment, please raise your virtual hand. All right, we can set it at 3 minutes for this small group.
Thank you. One moment while we get the timer up.
Thank you.
Our first speaker is Scott Largent. I'm unmuting you. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Scott Largent. Today out at the crash zone, the center section out there at Spring Street near Columbus Park has now started to have postings put on everybody's vehicle, tents, cars. The extensive outreach from nonprofit Home First, as I refer to them, Home Last, was pretty much non-existent for the first 6 weeks of that other sweep, and it'll be the same case. They get people's hopes up thinking they're going to go to a tiny home, they're going to get into a safe parking program. It's just not going to happen. And so I've started to be more upfront and honest with the people that I know, that I care about out there. And it's just basically like, you know, in the movies when they start telling people the help's not coming. And I just think it's better to prepare people. You know, an example, the elderly man, Mr. Fugio, that lives right next to me. Well, at one point he did live next to me. He was really keeping his fingers crossed. He worked several days out of the week. He's a good man. He's a very good man. Fell on some hard times in life. He was waiting for a little tiny home. And I finally sat down with him and I just had to tell him it's not coming. It's not going to happen. He lives now in zone 3 directly behind my motorhome. And I had him move down there with me. We kept scouting out areas and this poor, just innocent Japanese man should not be out there. So he is now behind my RV, but night 1, somebody tried to burn him out, you know, which is unbelievable. People are getting extremely territorial. And since the mentally ill are basically in their new psych ward over there at Spring Street, it's just a war zone. And I repeat this stuff over and over again. And I know I must really sound like a broken record, but I'm trying to figure out why this is happening and why you people in power are allowing this to happen. I looked more online about human rights violations throughout the world, and I never expected that stuff to occur in the United States, let alone in Silicon Valley. And it is happening. The elderly, the disabled, children, this should never happen. And I am ashamed of Silicon Valley right now. You guys should not allow this to happen. You guys should be extremely upset and vocal about this. These people have nowhere to go, and you're now stacking bunk beds at the Picardo Reception Center during a pandemic. It is ridiculous.
That concludes our public comment, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. With that, we'll move to item 3, which is the consent calendar. Supervisor Wasserman, do you have any changes that you'd like to make? Anything you'd like to add to the consent calendar or remove? You are muted.
Oh, I keep pressing on my iPad for my keyboard. All right. I'd be happy to leave it as is, or I'm also open to putting number 7 on if you've received enough information on that. Otherwise, we'll hear number 7.
Well, in fact, I think 7 is very clear and complete, but it looks like Walter Wilson, who's the chairperson of CCLEM, is with us, and I would like to offer him the opportunity to make a brief report on 7, if that's all right with you.
Okay. So with that, then I'll go with the agenda and make a motion to approve items 9 and 10 on the consent.
Thank you very much. And 6.
Yes. Madam Chair, sorry to interrupt. Number 6 is the CCLEM item.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. What was number 7? What did I?
It's the competitive grants reports.
Oh, actually, I have a question about the competitive grants. So I'm happy to not have a presentation, but let's keep that on the regular calendar so I can just ask my question, please.
Okay, so Madam Chair, it's your pleasure to leave things as is, and my motion just to approve 9 and 10.
Thank you very much. Glad to second that.
Thank you.
And thank you for correcting me, Jill. Do we have any speakers on this item?
We do not.
All right, then let's do a roll call vote, please.
Vice Chairperson Wasserman
Yes.
and Chairperson Ellenberg.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, so we are going to move then to item number 4, which are the COVID reports from several, but not all, of our departments.
Thank you, Supervisor Ellenberg. This is Gary Hersig, Deputy County Exec. I'll be leading this presentation today, and we're going to use the same format as we have in past months. A report from the court on COVID-related delays, as well as the departments that operate custodial settings. So with that, we'll kick it off with Superior Court.
Thank you. Supervisors, thank you for having me here again this week. You must be tired of hearing from me by now. Our primary backlog for COVID-related issues lies in our misdemeanor trial departments. We anticipate roughly 350 time not waived cases that exist in our misdemeanor criminal backlog. We have made changes to our staffing of those courtrooms effective October 12th. We plan to have a 3-month effort to try to clear that backlog, which will of course require the participation of our justice partners in the district attorney and public defender's office. Our only other backlog right now is still in the civil division, which I assume none of you have any interest in.
Thank you.
But happy to know how it's running. Thank you so much, Judge McGowan.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we'll move over to the Sheriff's Department.
There they are.
In the sheriff's office, if you're speaking, we're not hearing you.
How about now?
Yep.
There you go.
Yes, thank you.
Good afternoon, Supervisor Ellenberg and Supervisor Wasserman and the rest of the esteemed members of the committee. I'm Assistant Sheriff David Sepulveda. I'm here to introduce Sergeant Renee Menchaca, who will give you our COVID report.
Hi, good afternoon, Supervisors Ellenberg and Wasserman. The Sheriff's Office currently has one C19 positive staff member in isolation. That staff member is unvaccinated. And we also have 3 C19 positive inmates in our care. All 3 are community acquired. I wanted to give an update about our vaccine numbers. To date, 86% of the Sheriff's Office staff are reported as vaccinated. Of those vaccinated staff, 94% are fully vaccinated and 6% have only received their first dose. Specific to the Custody Bureau, 86% are vaccinated, 91% of those vaccinated staff members are fully, and 9% have only received their first dose. That concludes my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Supervisor
with
Wasserman, any questions?
Oh, sounds good.
from there, we'll move over to probation.
Great. Thank you, Gary. Turn this over to Deputy Chief Nick Percher to give an update on the institutions.
Good afternoon, supervisors. So as far as the COVID updates are concerned, the court process on the juvenile side, we have no backlog as of today. Court processes are going well. And I could certainly leave that up to Sylvia or Molly to comment if there are any issues that need to be brought to this forum, and I don't think there are. We have one youth who came into custody positive this past week. Currently with the medical team, the doctors and the nurses, making sure that they're okay, and they were asymptomatic at the time. Reporting on our staff's vaccinations, we are at about over 90% of our department that is vaccinated. Pretty close to that with our institution staff, both at Juvenile Hall, the James Branch, and of course that there's a few people who were going through the process as far as the exemptions, as with the county is doing with all departments. And so we're getting there, but pretty encouraging news. And that's all I have to report today, unless you have questions.
That is good news, Nick. Thank you. Supervisor Wasserman?
No, I'm just glad to hear all these 90 percentile
Right.
vaccinations.
All right, we'll move to custody health and Dr. Day, I believe.
Yes, good afternoon, Supervisor Ellenberg and Supervisor Wasserman. Custody Health Services, we continue with all of our healthcare deliverables, excuse me. We are doing our medical, mental health, and dental treatment without any interruption. So there's been no delays due to COVID-19. We continue to be very aggressive in our asymptomatic surveillance of testing of our patients, and also offering our vaccination clinics every week. We have dedicated nursing staff that all they do is interface with our patients, provide information and education on the vaccinations, as well as now providing information and education on booster shots. And we also are getting consents and providing any kind of triage that we need to provide with the patients. As far as vaccinations for our staff, we are 94% vaccinated. We do have a few staff that we're waiting to hear about their exemptions. Otherwise, all of our staff are fully vaccinated, and we have that proof of practice, and they've uploaded those cards to the Data Watch. And that concludes my report.
Really good numbers across the board today. Thanks so much, Dr. Day.
Thank you.
All right, and we'll wrap up with pretrial reporting on administrative booking.
Thank you very much. Happy to report that admin booking has no backlogs. It's offering all services. It's staffed 24/7, 365. We only have 36 staff members, but we have a 94% vaccination rate, and poised and ready to help with the cases that were stayed for sheriff's work program, weekend work program, and working on AB 1950 relief cases.
Can you remind me, Matt, what
Yes.
AB 1950 is? 950.
Forgive me. AB 1950 is a law that allowed early relief from probation, county probation, as well as court probation.
Got it. Thank you.
And with that, that concludes our report, Supervisor.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate all of the work that the departments are doing to have been so successful in helping your departments get to this near 100% number across the county. I think we are down to fewer than 500 employees countywide, with a workforce of 22,000 who have either not been vaccinated or not provided their status yet. So really great work by everybody. It makes me very proud to be part of Santa Clara County. Do we have any public speakers on this item?
We currently have 2, Madam Chair.
All right, let's do 2 minutes each, please.
Thank you. Our first speaker is Susan Bassey. I'm unmuting you. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking. Susan, it looks like you're using an older version of Zoom and we're unable to take your public comment at this time. Scott Largent, you'll have 2 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Scott Largent. It was good to hear, well, not necessarily good, but the feedback from the courts right now with the 360 misdemeanor cases that are waiting for trial. Basically, you have 2 of them that are on public comment right now. And of course, I am one of them. I have been maliciously prosecuted and harassed by our district attorney for almost my entire sobriety. And I am waiting to go to trial. And this will be pretty interesting because I'm putting together quite a list of people that need to be pulled in just to do the right thing to set things straight. And I plan on reaching out, well, I plan on subpoenaing one of your employees, Daniel Chung from the DA's office. It's very sad what happened to that man, and I'm very excited that he filed a federal lawsuit. And I think he can really bring healing to the community and put a stop to Jeffrey. Jeff has been way out of control as far as First Amendment issues and just kind of going after the wrong people. And I'm just hoping that eventually he'll stop his shenanigans and go after the real criminals in our community. And I just really question a lot of this stuff. And the retaliation is real. My visitation orders were not able to be enforced for 5 years out of that DA's office because I criticized him. And several other times when I really took it to him at a supervisor meeting, he had one of your judges, Dirty Geffen, issue a warrant for $1,000 to have me arrested when I was walking into family court for my visit with my kid. So you wonder why I call him Dirty Geffen. These people are all snakes. They're all in it together. And the all boys club is going to be done soon. We don't want this in Santa Clara County. So you guys can kick rocks.
That concludes our public comment.
Thank you. You're muted, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Just a quick question or maybe public announcement. Jill, is it correct that if people don't have the updated version of Zoom that they can, that's just a quick fix on their existing computer, or a reload and update?
It depends on what version they're using, Madam Chair. It can take longer if they're using a really old version.
Got it. All right. Thank you so much. We do not need a vote on that item. So
just an additional note, Madam Chairperson. This is Rhonda from the clerk's office. They can also use the call-in phone number and not use the Zoom application at all. And if they were using the phone call-in number, then they would be able to participate through that. It's using a Zoom application itself where sometimes the updates preclude us from allowing them to speak if they haven't updated.
Thank you, Rhonda. And is the phone number posted at the same place that the Zoom information is available?
Yes, it is.
All right. Terrific. Go team. Yes, Mike. Supervisor Oscar.
And Madam Chair, I just want to say we don't have any action items today aside from the approval that we did in the consent.
All right. Thank you very much. Moving to item 5, which is a report from the Sheriff's Office on the client satisfaction survey regarding grievances.
Good afternoon again, supervisors. Assistant Sheriff David Sepulveda here to answer any questions related to the report.
All right. Supervisor Wasserman, do you have any questions?
No, ma'am. Talking points, none. Thank you.
All right. I have a couple of comments and questions. Thank you very much to the Sheriff's Office and Sheriff Sepulveda for this report. I'm really looking forward to seeing the process move forward and to hearing from people who are in our custody what they perceive as the productivity of the grievance process to be. I have just a couple of questions and requests. First, relating to the background section of the report, I noticed that each grievance is submitted to the grievance unit And I would like to add OCLEM as an entity to receive each grievance that is submitted as well, so that it can remain on their radar. And additionally, I was pleased to see the methodology and the timeline for the satisfaction survey. Since the timeline reflects that the survey will be completed and deployment will begin by November, I would like the draft of the survey to be submitted in an off-agenda report before it's deployed, and for a brief report to come to the November PSJC meeting that includes the survey, to give the committee an opportunity to see what has been asked. I also want to offer just a couple of suggestions for survey content. I hope to see a question asking how long the respondent has been in custody and how frequently they use the grievance process, because responses, of course, based on length of stay, may differ. I would also like to see a question asking why a person may not be inclined to submit a grievance. And finally, I'm requesting that each individually completed survey be provided to OCLEM and CCLEM in addition to the sheriff, and for OCLEM and CCLEM in collaboration to analyze and report on the survey's results alongside the sheriff during the projected February 22 report back. Do you have questions, or do I need additional clarity about any of those requests?
I think that, oh, I'm sorry, Supervisor Washington.
No, go right ahead.
So with regard to sharing the grievances, I think it will depend on what they are about. Some go directly to the Internal Affairs Unit that the Grievance Unit doesn't handle. In addition to that, some go directly to medical, and they are the medical, maybe HIPAA-related issues. So I think we would have to make sure that we filter out anything that is inappropriate to send over at that juncture.
To the extent that those types of documents cannot be redacted, that makes sense. But if they are coming to the sheriff's office and they are not in violation of privacy laws, or they can be redacted to protect individual identity, that works for me. And the other items, all is okay? Thank you. So we will have a, hang on just one second, Supervisor Wasserman. I will ask for a motion on that direction after we've heard all of the comments. Supervisor Wasserman, go right ahead.
Thank you. And I'm going to guess that you'll make the motion on your list of items. And I was going to express concern about privacy. You know, these things are between the inmates and the system. And I think the sheriff's office brought up two very good points that we need to be careful about this information going out and going out to whom. Beyond that, my question is, what, Chair Ellenberg, do you have in mind? For instance, one of the biggest complaints I've seen over my years is the taste of the food. And the county has rules in place that your predecessor, Supervisor Yeager, brought along about healthy foods and minimizing salts and minimizing sugars. Obesity is an issue. What are your thoughts when a complaint comes back that the food doesn't taste good?
So I'm not looking to address the complaints, and I'm not interested in evaluating them from that perspective. What I would like to know is how they are addressed and treated. And, you know, that's certainly an example of a systemic issue that is unlikely to get an affirmative satisfactory response. But I think that there are many, many categories of grievances and concerns that apply to an individual. And that's what I'm looking for. And in having, the individual identity is irrelevant. What I'm looking at is systems and satisfaction, and wanting to make sure that a response to a grievance isn't equated to a satisfaction of a grievance. And in some cases, you're quite right. Thank you, Ken. We may not be able to adjust the food, but I believe that there are plenty of other direct issues that we should be able to address. And if we de-identify them, there should be no
Thank you.
privacy issues.
Thank you. I appreciate your comment about the privacy issues, about the food one. That's always one that comes up, where more salt would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you. And really, grievance is the only way for people who are in custody to communicate with those who are in power. So I think that this is a really important area of review and transparency.
Agreed. And what I find important is a person files a grievance. That's that person filing a grievance. There has to be a process in place for investigating the validity of the grievance. There's different people. I'll just use a non-related example where I could be at an event and think the music's very loud, and my daughter could be at an event and think the music's just fine. A person can file a grievance about something, and I think it's important, to be fair, that somehow there's a process in place that investigates the grievance for the validity. And I see Dr. Smith is trying to speak.
So again, I'll just respond quickly. That's not what I am looking to do here. I want to see what the system is. And then when we have that information in front of us, we'll be able to have a better conversation based on what the grievances are.
Oh, I appreciate that and I respect that. I'm just suggesting that part of that discussion, when you have the grievances in front of you, we need to have some sort of plan as to how to review, decipher, analyze, validate the grievance before us. And
well, I'm not interested in preliminarily invalidating people's individual perspectives. And again, we're not going to be addressing them, Mike. We're not here to solve them. I want us to understand the process of when people file a grievance and when they may choose not to, even if they have a concern, what kind of response they get, how they are addressed and treated. That's what I'm looking to see.
Okay, and just for the record, you were saying you weren't looking to invalidate a grievance. I'm looking to validate a grievance. And I guess that's a cup is half full, cup is half empty. Kind of.
Well, it's a basic presumption that I will start with the presumption that people have genuine concerns, whether or not other people agree with those concerns. They deserve respectful responses.
Okay, it's a concern I have with the path that we're going down, and so I was voicing my concern to the chair.
I hear you.
And to all the others that are involved, and thank you for hearing me.
Absolutely, and I'm sure that we can take this back up again when we have material in front of us to see what concerns are warranted and what we can learn. And we will have the Council of OCLEM and CCLEM who will have looked at them as well and can talk to us and make some conclusions about the effectiveness of the process. Dr. Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just going to make the suggestion that as part of your request that you also involve County Council, because as has been discussed, there are legal issues that are probably larger than just the Sheriff's Department and OCLEM, so that it would be important for County Council to weigh in on those issues as you gather that information.
That's a very good call. Yes, thanks, Jeff. I'm happy to add that to my direction. With that, I will make a motion to adopt the direction that I listed, the comments and questions that I listed in my remarks.
Thank you, and that included Dr. Smith's?
Yes, absolutely.
I second that.
Thank you very much. Do we have any public speakers on the item or any, and I'll remind committee members again to please raise your hands at any time. And if I don't see them, I'm asking the clerk and Supervisor Wasserman to make sure that you all have opportunities to speak when you would like to. But not seeing any now other than Dr. Smith's that's still up. Did you have something else, Dr. Smith? Nope. All right. Do we have any public speakers on this item?
No request to speak, Madam Chair.
All right, then let's do a roll call vote, please.
Vice Chairperson Wasserman,
Yes.
Chairperson Ellenberg.
Yes. All right. We then move on to item 6. I'm confusing again with item 6 and 7. Is 6 on consent? Did we approve 6?
No, you said you wanted to hear
Good.
that.
Okay, terrific. I was confusing myself again there.
And we can be received if you wish. There is no action necessary.
I just want to offer the committee chair an opportunity to speak about the item, and if he's got nothing to add beyond the excellent report, then we will just accept it and move on. Walter.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. How are you? Good to see you today. Vice Chair, my supervisor, Mike Wasserman, who so graciously appointed me this opportunity to be on this committee. Thank you so much for all this extra free work. Thank you. I appreciate you. And so I want to start off by first off thanking staff who's been just inexpendable in this process. Deputy County Exec Key Lee, Peggy Doyle and her staff, Laura Trice, from County Council, and you know you guys were talking about the grievance process, and this is something that is a major concern to our Community Correctional Law Enforcement Monitoring Committee members, and I suspect that we'll be coming back to you with some answering all those questions that you were just discussing both ways. And Dr. Smith is right. And the good thing for us is everything we do, we're fortunate to have Laura there, making sure that we stay within the the realm of the law, and that those limitations are known. And if she doesn't have answers, she's able to go out and get them for us and come back. So we're very fortunate to have her there with everything that we do officially, Dr. Smith. So in this area where we're talking about grievances and everything we do in CCLEM, we have that guidance and leadership from that office as well as from Keeley. So we're fortunate to have that. So that'll definitely be a key part of that. I also want to thank my committee members, my vice chair, Helen Casa, Pablo Gaxiola, Ron Hansen, Michelle Liu, Vinay Vihar, Anand Raghunathan, Bernie Mills, and Christine Clifford. For volunteering as well and giving their time and their knowledge and expertise to this very important matter of law enforcement and safety. As the chair, I just want to say this, that, it's very important. First of all, one of the things that we're making as a priority is that every single commissioner must tour the jails. Personally, they must tour the jail. So because it's almost like impossible to begin making decisions and judgments about anything that you're not familiar with. It's a lot of people, probably a lot of people here actually probably never walked through those jails. And fortunately, when we did, myself and my vice chair, we're giving unfettered access to the staff, to the inmates. We're able to go and see anything that we wanted to see. and I want to thank the sheriff for giving us that freedom to be able to move about and be critical and look at things and come back and make a real report for what's happening with the inmates. Because for me, there's several things I think are important as a chair. One is that the inmates are safe and that they're in an environment that they're treated humanely. And on that same level, I think the employees, the people who work in those systems must also be safe. And so that to me is a priority, the safety of everyone in the system. And and as a civil rights advocate, I'm you that if when you go and you actually tour the facilities themselves, whatever you think you know in the past, you don't really know much unless you go see. And I think I recommend that everybody here, particularly in this Justice Committee, do that if we haven't. So that's very important. So today, you guys have our work plan that we put together, and there's no real action to be taken on it, but I will tell you that the importance of the work that we're doing can be stated enough in that we're looking at bringing about major changes to what law enforcement looks like here and now today. And I feel that the work that Helen Casa and I have done working with the sheriff over the last few months is beginning to yield some very positive outcomes. I think it's going to be seen from the letter that she submitted today, in that, she expressed strong interest in sharing information. As a result of the work that we've done, we begin to develop a level of trust around that. I think that's crucial and important because, as an elected official, the sheriff is going to be here as far as I know. And she's been in that system, I think, longer than anybody. She has a lot of information that can be useful and helpful. And for us, it's important that we have a strong partner in the sheriff's office to help bring about the changes that need to happen here. And I think we have that. So with that, I just wanted to say, please feel free to look at the work plan that we have. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to reach out to me. I'm available. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Walter. It's a good, clear plan. I really appreciate the work of CCLEM. I would echo your exhortation. I have been in both of our jails, in all of the facilities, and it is a very enlightening experience, and certainly more useful to talk about a place that you've been in. So thank you very much for that. Supervisor Wasserman, do you have any questions?
No, I've been through the jails as well, and clearly, Walter, you were the right man for the job.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. One other thing I want to say too is I think that the inclusion of Dr. Day into this whole process is huge. I think it's going to give us a much better opportunity to look at what custody health looks like and to improve that. Just from what I've seen so far, I want to thank you guys for bringing her in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Glad to hear that. Jill, do we have any speakers on this item?
No speakers, Madam Chair.
All right. We do not need a motion for that item. So that takes us to item 7, which is the competitive grant report. And I would just like to go. Yes.
Madam Chair, sorry to interrupt. For item 6, we actually do need a motion. It's to be forwarded to the Board of Supervisors.
So moved.
Thank you very much. Second.
Thank you. And Vice Chairperson Wasserman.
Yes.
And Chairperson Ellenberg.
Yes.
Thank
you. We would be lost without the outstanding clerks. Item 7, the competitive grants report. In reading it, I couldn't help but notice that 6 of the departments of the 6 departments that reported on their competitive grants for this year, the only agencies that received the grants were the 3 law enforcement agencies: probation, the district attorney, and the sheriff. And the medical examiner, the public defender, and pretrial aren't reporting on any grants for this fiscal year. And I'm curious to know, are there fewer opportunities? Is there less money available, or do your departments have less staffing or less bandwidth to apply for grants, or did you get grants that just didn't make it onto this list? Molly, please go ahead. Public Defender Molly O'Neill.
Good afternoon, Supervisor Ellenberg, and thank you for bringing up this point. Pre-COVID, I was trying to figure out how to get a grant writer added on to our staff to both look for opportunities and write the grant applications. We have partnered with Reentry several times to get grants that we used collectively to do various projects, including the no-cost release program. And our office received a technical assistance grant several years back from the Department of Justice to implement holistic defense. And moving forward, we will be submitting the application through the county for post-conviction work. And I know I saw your email yesterday, and we were already planning for and talking about that collectively among the defense council group in the county. But I couldn't agree with you more. I think there are opportunities out there. We haven't historically had enough staff to kind of go after them. So I hope going forward we can kind of put our minds and some of our resources towards doing more of that. So
yeah, that might be something to talk about at the mid-year budgets, because it sounds like investing a relatively small amount in an additional FTE could result in significant returns in grant funding every year.
I agree. Thank you.
Sure. Do Matt or the medical examiner want to weigh in? Go ahead.
Sure, I would let the medical examiner go first if she'd like to.
Okay, yes. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is actually Josefina Covarrubias sitting in for Dr. Michelle Jordan. And we have seen some grants that might be applicable to MEC, but it's very limited. So we haven't really been able to find any grants that really will suit our needs. But we are working collaboratively with to see if we could come up with any grants that would be feasible for us to use here in our department.
Thank you. I appreciate hearing that, and I'm glad to be learning more. Go ahead, Matt.
Thank you, Matt Fisk from Pretrial Services. So I upgraded my technology and now my lighting.
And your lighting, you are killing it just in time for a pandemic to end, I hope.
Yeah. So we are looking at a couple of grant opportunities. I am pleased to say that we're working very closely with Judge McGowan, the court, and other partners. We are to receive some pretrial expansion funding from the state government. And that money is to be utilized, obviously, to expand what's working well, pretrial services with the courts and with partners. So we'll let you know more about that once we have more information.
Thank you so much. And I want to be clear that there's no intention to detract from the great work of the agencies that are attracting the funding, and certainly the more external funds that we can have to meet local needs, the better. I was just really fundamentally curious to know whether the other departments had less bandwidth to be able to apply for grants, or if they were truly less available. So thank you. This was helpful information. Supervisor Wasserman, do you have any questions or comments?
No, ma'am.
All right. Do we have any public speakers on this item?
No request to speak, Madam Chair.
All right. And I believe we do not need a motion on that item.
Correct.
Which brings us to item 8, announcements from any of the committee members or supervisors. I don't have any myself today. Do any committee members have announcements? I'm looking for hands or waves.
Nope.
Seeing none, I will adjourn our PSJC meeting of October 7th at 2:42 p.m. and we will be back together on November 4th at 2 p.m. Stay safe and well, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Recording stopped.
Meeting has officially adjourned.